The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Okay, welcome back. Glad you're here. We have lots to talk about the next 3 hours. We're going to start things off with the brilliant Gerald Celente of Trends Research. Gerald is kind enough to spend an hour of his extremely precious time with us and all of you around the world once a month. Hello, Gerald. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jeff. It's always great being on with you.
Thank you, sir. Great things happening in our country's government. The GOP warns of an explosion if Obama rushes immigration executive action. You know, he's got this executive order dictatorial power granted to him by some ungodly source, and he's going to fix immigration with an EO, ladies and gentlemen, in case you didn't miss it. Well, in case you did miss it, too. The GOP is warning him not to do it so fast. So what we're looking at here is immigration, quote, reform one way or the other. Obama's thumbing his nose and giving his middle finger to the Congress and is just going to go ahead. He says, I don't need you people. Of course, never mind that there's nowhere in the Constitution that executive orders are not only identified but termed to be legal. So it's getting to be insane.
Well, it's illegal at every end. Now look at the wars that we're in now. When Congress isn't even
absolutely
anymore.
Yep.
And the United States is at war with Syria.
Yep.
And now, of course, since we've been saying since the beginning, when Obama made that speech a few months ago, why we're going back into Iraq. No, we're not going back into Iraq. We're going to go there to save them Yazidis on the mountain. You know what a Yazidi is.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You got them all around your neighborhood, you know? Yeah. Maybe a couple in your driveway.
I have some in my garage.
You got some in your garage.
Yeah.
Everybody has Yazidis.
That's right.
And as us being the United States of America, you know, this is a humanitarian mission. No, this isn't. We're not going back into Iraq. No. Oh, and those soldiers, they're advisors.
That's right.
You know, you remember that? That's old enough to remember Vietnam. That's all they had over there, too.
Just advisors.
Yeah, about 58,000 advisors got killed.
That's right.
Yeah, only about that 250,000 plus wounded.
At least.
And you know, and millions of lives ruined, both here and the 3 million killed.
3 million dead in sure. In Vietnam.
By the advisors.
That's right.
So now, you know, I mean, you're talking about executive order. The country is shot. Look at this election. It should be called a illegitimate election. Only, 36% of the people voted?
Yeah, and that 36% returned 96% of the career criminals back to the Congress for 2 more years.
Yeah, throw out the bums, bring in the scums. Nothing changed.
Never. No, and by the way, General Dempsey today said, well, it just might have to be that we put boots on the ground back in Iraq. Never mind, as Gerald said, they're already there. But he's talking about GI soldiers, heavy armor, the whole thing. That's what they're talking about. Dempsey said it today.
And then there was the guy that should be brought up on war criminal charges, George W. Bush, for lying us into the war. He appears on CBS on Sunday with that little boy Schaefer, whatever his guy's name is, throwing softball. Schaefer, yeah. And he goes. Bush says that ISIS in Iraq is Al Qaeda plus. Hey, wait a minute. There was no Al Qaeda.
Al Qaeda plus.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
There was no Al Qaeda in Iraq.
Of course not. The guys
lied to us. You said that Saddam Hussein had ties to Al Qaeda. Yeah, Al Nusra, Al this and Al that. It's another lie. They're destroying the country in front of us. We just had an illegitimate election. 36% of the people voted. This is record breaking.
That's
the only time it was worse was like World War II when it just began, and it wasn't because people weren't interested in voting. It was because the war was on.
That's right. That's I didn't know that statistic. I hadn't heard it. That's pretty grim. That's life support, folks. That's IV drip time for this country. 36%. Wow.
36% of the people.
Wow.
And as you pointed out, 96% of them came back into office, the career politicians that is destroying America.
Well, people bitch and scream about the criminals in Washington, but they don't do anything about it. Those 36 who sent, I guess, their ballots streaming off to be corrupted and fixed, are those who are invested in having the same criminals return. They must be.
Yep.
The rest of America, 2/3 of them, don't want them back in there, but won't get off their asses to go vote. I don't know. It's weird.
And then, on the economic front, because really a lot of this ties back into it. And, I've been talking about this actually since June, and that's oil prices.
That's true. Yeah, they're down again, right?
They're getting creamed. You're looking at West Texas is just it's at a 4-year low, and Brent crude. When I started talking about it, it hit a high in June of $115 a barrel. Mm-hmm. Because as you know, each night we do trends in the news as part of the subscription.
That's great.
And I do oil prices, stock markets, and gold. And now we're talking about Brent crude being, remember, from $115 to $78.
Wow.
This is unprecedented.
Well, it hurts the ruble, and there are some who suggest that the oil manipulation and telling the Saudis to open the taps to flood the market to bring the prices down is designed to try to punish
It's
Vladimir
bigger than
Putin.
that, Jeff. It's bigger than I looked at that as well, and I've talked about that as a possibility, even on Russian television. But it's bigger than that because you look at the data coming out of China. China was the super commodity buyer of the world.
Yeah.
And you're looking now, for example, at real estate, housing, and general real estate. It increased in 2013 by nearly 27% growth. This year, it's down already over 10%.
Wow.
Yeah, prices are down as well. Growth is down. Prices are down about 10% as well, 9%. And the bubble's much worse than that because it's not only that our data lies in this country, they lie even more over there. They don't have any checks. Well, we don't have checks and balances either, but they have more control.
They just make it up.
Yeah. I'll give you an example how it's made up here. You look at the numbers that come out with the employment numbers, and you saw the ones that just came out in the beginning of the month, and they show, for example, the increase in jobs. I love the name they give it to. They give the jobs. The hospitality sector.
What?
That means you're a waiter or a waitress or a bartender.
That's the new definition I see of working in a food service industry.
Right. Now, they've been showing...
They call it prostitution, too, couldn't they?
That's a The numbers that came out have been showing great
beginning
growth.
of the month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never mind the 95 million Americans who can't find work, who want to work. Never mind them.
The data came out 2 days ago from the restaurant industry that shows how the huge drop-off in the amount of people going out to eat each week. So who would I believe? I believe the Restaurant Association.
Well, I would take they're the men and women whose money is on the line.
Yeah. They have nothing to gain by saying that less people are going out and eating out.
But don't worry, Gerald. The official graph says 5.9% unemployment rate, a very low rate. Very healthy. It must be robust and healthy out there. No problems whatsoever. It's not just restaurants, folks. It's small business everywhere. The big box Walmart crush on Main Street America is all but complete. I see little businesses folding all the time. And the feds have regulated them, of course, to the point that they're all strangling. They can't exist. I don't know how anybody... entrepreneurship was a wonderful virtue of this republic for decades and decades, maybe a century. More. And now, who wants to be an entrepreneur when you get your ass kicked with so many regulations that you don't have a chance? You really don't.
Well, you're right. They deregulated the Robinson-Patman Act, Sherman Antitrust Act, the
Antitrust,
Clayton Antitrust Act.
40 years ago was an important concept. They've just mocked it.
It's gone.
They've gutted it.
And I was talking, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, of course, who I respect more than anyone for economic and geopolitical insights. We had a lengthy conversation last night, and he said to me, Gerald, he said, look how quick all this changed.
Oh, yeah. No accident, that.
It just, in a blink of an eye, everything, from the land of opportunity, it's now gone to the land of multinationals. It's a multinational takeover.
You want to start a business up, mom and pop? Good luck. Good luck getting the money. Good luck getting the backing. And then you will be destroyed with regulatory and confiscatory taxes and all kinds of penalties just for being in business.
Yeah,
I'm not joking.
Yeah, I know. And who do they hurt? They hurt us with more property taxes, school taxes.
Yeah. I got an email question for you from a gentleman who has great respect for you and this program. His name is Tom Platt. He says, "Hi, Jeff. Thanks for all the great programs. Can you ask Gerald for me, please, about the real estate industry? I am a full-time realtor, and we are seeing a very disturbing trend. The trend we are seeing is that loans are very difficult to get for buyers. We've had 3 loans fall through on 3 different listings in the last 3 months. One of them happened today. I was speaking with a lender friend of mine, and he had one fall through today as well. His was a refi. We believe it is due to the very tight restrictions of the Dodd-Frank Act that has added or eventually will add 398 new regulations, just like what I was just talking about. It's as if they are trying to bring down the housing industry intentionally. Does Gerald have any thoughts on this? Thank you in advance, Tom."
Yes, because I know the local bankers. And the local bankers here tell me how difficult it is to abide by Dodd-Frank. And what the restrictions it has put upon them.
Yeah.
But it hasn't hurt the big banks. And then when you look at what's going on and you're seeing the facts, is that the big banks are doing most of the business. And they've gotten a lot bigger. They're too big to fail.
Yep.
So this is just what you were talking about with the mom and pops. This is another penalty that has been pushed upon the small banks. There was never any need for Dodd-Frank. All you had to do was bring back Glass-Steagall.
Yep.
So Dodd-Frank, and the other fact is, when it goes back to the economy again and the jobs that we were talking about that are being created, and the jobs don't pay wages. So what you have, you're looking at formation households. Formation of households is going to all-time lows. The millennials can't afford to get married. They can't afford to buy a car. They can't afford to buy a house.
No,
and by the way, the other bubble that has been created actually is in the automobile industry, because they've done the same thing with the no verification loans that they did during the housing bubble. They've done now to automobiles.
Well, look at the recall. I mean, American automobile manufacturing is on critical life support as well.
So to answer his question, it's double. It's coming from two sides.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from the overregulation that we were talking about. And again, this isn't sensible regulation. This is penalizing small business legislation.
Absolute penalties, you bet.
And the other one is the loss of decent paying jobs. Here is a statistic that everyone should be shocked with. And that is that 85 people in the world have more money than half the world.
I ran it.
You saw that, right?
Oh, yeah.
3.5 billion people have as much money as 85 people. So there, and then the other thing that's only kept the housing market up at all are the record low interest rates and a lot of money coming in from foreign countries.
Money, China money.
China money, Latin America money. I mean, you go down to Miami, you know, it's another world. You know, so the dough is coming in, and then you have a lot of speculators out there too that are buying up. So it's really it's the economy and it's the regulation.
Well, a lot of realtors are speculators too. They'll get a line on a house and they'll try and flip it real quick. So house flipping. Not like it used to be, but that's the deal. Here's that story that Gerald just alluded to. It's worth mentioning because it kind of, hopefully, I know in this audience it will, it gives people a chance to understand the grievous imbalance, if that's a way to put it. There has been class warfare going on for the last 20 years, and my class has won. So said billionaire investor Warren Buffett, who made that remark more than 3 years ago, and it still holds true today. Only the gap between the richest and the poorest has gotten even wider. Here's how bad it is. Oxfam now calculates that, as Gerald said, the 85 richest billionaires, this is kind of an absurd term, isn't it? The richest billionaires on the planet, including the likes of Carlos Slim, Billy Gates, and little Mark Zuckerberg, have as much money as the 3.5 billion poorest people on the planet. Right there.
It's half the population. What is it, 7 billion people?
Yep.
Half the population. So they use the term poorest. No, it's half the people. It's everybody.
Just keep it at that. I love this expression, though. The richest billionaires.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So what we're looking at when you start putting all these pieces together, the income inequality at levels that are beyond robber baron levels in so many ways.
They are.
Because at least when the robber barons were stealing things, they were building things.
Yeah.
You know, the Carnegies, they're building railroads.
It's called infrastructure, for God's sake.
Yeah, the people were working at least.
They were building the backbone, the skeleton of our country.
Yeah, and again, there were the problems with that as well, but at least the people were working.
At least they put people to work.
Most of this money is being made on deals.
Correct. Perfect point. Yeah, those jobs, they had their problems. There were corrupt people and big robber barons running it. But they put America to work, for God's sakes.
And look at the country that was built.
Yeah. It was the greatest country in the world. And then amalgamations began, and absorptions and mergers and all that. And Glass-Steagall was swept into the trash. And the whole idea of fair and open market was gone. And if you don't think it's gone, try and start a business. I mean, this is all disgusting. We buy so much from China now. Go in China Mart, folks. And I defy you to try to find many products in there, if any, that are made in America. It's all made in China. I don't know, 95% of it. There might be some token items in there, but yeah, it's all Chinese.
To me, the only way there's going to be a recovery in this nation is to have a self-sustaining economy. I talk about it often. There's no reason why we have to buy anything from anybody other than, some good prosciutto from Italy, things like that. Some fine wines from France. I know there are great wines in California, but things are different in other countries. So let's buy those things that are nation specific, that bring you a different taste, a different look, and a different style, rather than everyday things that we need to survive. And to me, we don't need to be buying our shirts, shoes, computers, anything from anybody. We can make it all here. And if the laws were put back in place that used to make that happen, as I said, the same thing with Glass-Steagall, you didn't need Dodd-Frank, that we would be a very different nation.
We would be at least a reasonable remnant of what we were. The thing that nobody talks about, you do, but most people don't, is the literal collapse. It's as if our skeleton, what holds our liquid meat up and walking, our skeleton, our infrastructure, is literally crumbling. I mean, it is literally crumbling. And who's building it? Who's rebuilding it? Who's talking about building it? Nobody.
We got ISIS to get.
That's right. We got
to get them ISISes. If we don't stop them, I'll tell you, they'll be all over this country.
That's right.
Wow. Oh, yeah, they'll be infiltrating everywhere. They'll be in Topeka, Kansas, Joplin, Missouri. Yeah, Ferguson.
They'll be stealing American children, little girls, and selling them on
barbecuing them.
Well, they'll be selling them to slavery or barbecuing them. You choose. Yeah, they're the worst. This is all crazy.
It's insanity.
Yeah, and they all talk now about al-Baghdadi. Is al-Baghdadi alive or is he dead? Yeah. Who gives a good goddamn? I don't. I mean, it doesn't matter. ISIS will continue because it's a corporate endeavor at the highest level. It's being run by a corporation, just like a corporation. Who the heck knows really created it? We had a fading villain, Al-Qaeda. We had to have a new one. So we got a new one.
You got a new one.
Now Dempsey's talking about, we got to send American boys and girls. We're going to have to put boots on the ground. As Gerald said, they're already on the ground, but we're talking about major combat division strength. And it's going to happen. Because, why? The military-industrial complex needs profits. And that's what it's always been about. Always. All right, hold on a second. We'll be right back with Mr. C in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away. Okay, we're back with Gerald. The big news of the week, one of the top stories, if you can use top in any advisory way, is this guy named Gruber. And what a perfect name for a creep. Gruber. Grubby. I'll play this as short. He said the lack of transparency in government is a huge political advantage. Well, thank you for telling me that, Jonathan. I never would have figured it out. What's really amusing is to watch people like Nancy Pelosi. This guy was one of the key writers for Obamacare, that outrage. Pelosi all of a sudden Never heard of him. Doesn't know him. I mean, these people have no problem with their lives at all. Here's little Johnny Gruber telling the truth.
It's just, you can't do it politically. You just literally cannot do it. Okay? Transparent financing, unless I have transparent financing, also transparent spending. I mean, this bill was written in a tortured way to make sure CBO did not score the mandate as taxes. If CBO scored the mandate as taxes, the bill dies. Okay? So it's written to do that. In terms of risk-rated subsidies, if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, it made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people get money, it would not have passed. Okay? Just like lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass. And, it's the second best argument. Look, I wish Mark was right. We can make it all transparent, but I'd rather have this law than not. So it's kind of like his reporter story. There's things I wish I could change, but I'd rather have this law than not.
Well, thank you, Johnny.
It's just, you can't do it politically. You just literally cannot do it.
You can't do it, he says. Nancy Pelosi never heard of the guy. She doesn't know who he is. Her hands are clean. She knows nothing. How nuttier can this all get, Gerald? I mean, really.
And you listen to this arrogant little boy.
These
arrogant little boys.
Yeah.
You know what he said? But I'd rather have this law. But I'd rather have it.
Oh, it's all about him.
Yeah, I'd rather. Who are you? I'll tell you who you are. You're a guy that's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars from we the taxpayer to screw us.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I've said this over and over again. When are people going to get it in their heads? It's the club, man. It's Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks. It's that little joint of these people who think they're better than everybody else. This guy's an MIT guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole club. And as George Carlin used to say, we're not in it.
We aren't. Thank God. I wouldn't want to be...
Arrogance.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in
okay,
that club.
Okay. Yeah, okay, but I'd rather have it, okay?
No, the way he talks down.
Oh, I know.
People.
They all talk down to us.
Yeah.
They talk down to us, and they trickle on us.
No, they piss on us.
It's trickled down. You got it.
Well,
don't forget to vote. Look what they got. Look at the clowns.
Vote.
Look at the freak show. Hey, McConnell, how's that for a freak? Oh, Reed wasn't good enough for you. You needed another freak. Hey, you could just change their names. They're equal freaks. Hey, how about now we got Boner in there, we got a Pelosi. Look at these people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
Did you see what I did in the Trends Journal when I showed a picture of my uncles? The one, it's a funny one.
Okay, yeah, tell our listeners.
I have a photo in one of my books what Zizzy gave Honey Boy about my Aunt Zizzy.
Yeah.
And I put a photo in there what life used to be like, growing up as a kid in the Bronx. And they were my three uncles, my Uncle Frankie, my Uncle Harry, and my Uncle Nicky. Mm-hmm. They all rest in peace. And there's a photograph of the three of them dressed to the nines as two of them as women, and my Uncle Nicky as the tough bloke. Actually, he was a New York City cop, and he was a detective, and he was also a hero. He saved a guy. This is a very sad story, actually. He saved a guy, a person, from drowning in the East River. He jumped in and he saved the guy from drowning, and he did a lot of wonderful things. And the day my youngest sister was born, who they called Nikki, my mother, may her soul rest in peace, was in the hospital, just had the baby.
Yeah.
And the nurses came around with the newspapers in those days. And my mother picks up the paper, and then there's the Daily Mirror, and the front page is hero cop killed in car accident. And it was my uncle. But anyway, I have this photo of the three of them playing a skit from South Pacific for my grandmother. Now remember, this is first-generation Italians, and they're playing South Pacific for my grandmother. And I wrote in the Trends Journal with that photo there, could you imagine how my family would feel of what has happened to this nation? And I started with Uncle Nicky playing what he would do playing John McCain. He'd tear him to shreds. doing a skit on him. And I said, Uncle Harry, you know, he was more, the way he's dressed, he's more Lindsey Graham girlish than Uncle Frankie's dressed up, and he would be a better part of playing lovely Lindsay. And then my Uncle Frankie, who's also dressed up as a woman, Frank Vigilante, you know, from Canarsie, Brooklyn.
That was his name?
Yeah, Frank Vigilante. You're the greatest guy. All of them, hearts of gold. Brooklyn guy. Yeah. I said he would have played Obama. This guy used to dress so slick. He was such a wonderful guy. You know, because Obama is just nothing but a con man. So if they were going to put on this play about the destruction of America, those were three characters that my uncles could have played that would have shown what a disgrace this nation's turned into.
A disgrace, and unfortunately, I see no way to really correct it.
Well, we're trying to do it with Occupy Peace.
You are.
And we're going to be launching that on May 2nd, 2015, from the historic corners in Colonial Kingston, New York, the only corner where there's a stone building predating the Revolution. And the courthouse right next to it was where John Jay was a juror, as well as three other Supreme Court justices. New York was the first capital of New York. Kingston was the first capital of New York State. The Constitution was written in that courthouse. 90% of our Constitution was taken from the New York State Constitution. What I'm saying to you is that the seeds of democracy was sown here, and we're going to do our best to replant them. And this isn't going to be like any other rally that anyone's ever seen before, because it's not going to be something to come to, yell, scream, and say, you know, love and peace. No, this is a battle plan for peace, because I would rather fight for peace than die for war, and they're leading us to war. So we're going to have takeaways. We already have nearly 20,000 people signed up at occupypeace.us. We had nearly 5,000 comments already, and we haven't really started to publicize this.
No, it hasn't been pushed. Well, we'll help you here. That's great. Very good. Here's a break coming up. We'll come right back. And let's, just for fun, I like to put these people out on public display. Pelosi, who has had more recent cosmetic surgery, it looks like. We're going to hear her talk about little Johnny Gruber's comment. She's never heard of him before, she said. Funniest thing. Back in a minute with Gerald. Okay, and let me remind you, Trends Research is the place to go, and I hope all of you subscribe. This is, again, what Time Magazine used to be, what Life Magazine never was, and what news really is. And you can get it with no commercials. There's not one commercial in this entire magazine. And there's a daily update. There's all kinds of things now. If you get affiliated with Gerald, you get the news, you get commentary, you get it all. Here's a little quickie from Fox on Pelosi. These career criminals, Gerald, they just amaze me with their brazen lying. Brazen. Pelosi used to cite Jonathan Gruber when she was pushing Obamacare and all the rest of it, talking about it. Here's Fox News, which does some good things once in a while. Here's a little clip for you.
Your architect Jonathan Gruber's recent comments calling the American voters stupid are certainly getting a lot of attention on Capitol Hill from both parties. But Nancy Pelosi is trying to downplay Gruber's role, apparently, in writing the health care law itself. Take a look at this.
Now listen to Nancy stammer and stutter. She's not a good liar. And as soon as she starts to lie, she starts to lose control of her flow of prose, shall we say.
I don't know who he is. He didn't help write our bill. You have a person who wasn't writing our bill commenting on what was going on when we were writing the bill, who has withdrawn some of the statements that he made. So let's put him aside.
Yeah, let's just put him aside. Here's a little quick follow-up.
Wow. Joining us now for political reaction, Tony Saig, Basil Smikle Jr. Tony, let me start with you. She doesn't know who the guy is, and yet she's the one who, when pushing for the bill, was citing Jonathan Gruber, the esteemed MIT economist, as an authority on the subject.
All right, you get the idea. Anyway, these people have no shame. They're shameless.
They don't. They're psychopaths and sociopaths. They
are, and it's also I hate to say this, but it is based on a realization on their part that the American public has very little pushback and just doesn't care about any of this for the most part. Not your folks, Gerald, or mine, but the great majority of the sheep. They just keep their head down and keep chewing and look sideways at the big screen TV sometimes. But it's a measure of the disrespect and the contempt that they have, these criminals, for all of us in the aggregate.
Oh, yeah. Again, they're sociopaths, psychopaths, and they know that, there's, what do you do? There's no mechanism within the system to get rid of them. It's as simple as that.
Well, the only mechanism might come from General Dempsey, but apparently he's been bought out long ago. He's sending boots on the ground to the wrong place. He should send it to Washington.
I mean, Nancy Pelosi's, she's a freak, as are the rest of them, as are Lindsey Graham, as are McCain, as are Reid, Boner,
not
Obama, Bush, Cheney. It's a freak show in front of everybody's eyes, and nobody wants to call the freaks freaks.
No. Well, they own the media. This guy on Fox did a pretty good job with this. At least they played
if they only do it to the other side.
It's true. It's true.
And me, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in any of this stuff.
No, I don't either. It's just a continuum of lies and deceit. That's all it is. It's a joke. It's a circle. It's a closed circle.
Yep.
Closed circle.
And of course, the other news that people should be very aware of is the what's going on in Ukraine.
That's crucial. I've been covering it in depth every day. Porky instituted that so-called ceasefire for one reason and one reason only. Two reasons. So he could have his fake, fraud, corrupt elections in Kiev, but bigger than that, so they could mass enormous amounts of men, heavy armor, and artillery on the so-called border of the separatist Donbass region. They're getting ready, as you know, Gerald. They're going to roll in there, and they're going to kill a hell of a lot of people. And that's going to force Putin's hand. We're going to see what he's going to do, and this could happen tomorrow or the next day. There's an enormous number of tanks, heavy artillery pieces, tens of thousands of soldiers, all massed on the western side of the People's Republic of Donetsk and the People's Republic of Lugansk or Luhansk, however you want to pronounce it. There's going to be big trouble there. This is all NATO, which is all Rothschild banking money ultimately, and it's all being pushed through Porky and his pigs, and of course Ratsenyuk, the Prime Minister.
And the propaganda that keeps coming out of the States, that with absolutely no proof of anything, they keep saying Russian troops are pouring into Ukraine.
Pouring in by the thousands. Tanks, endless columns of tanks.
and they can't show one picture.
No, never mind the truth. Talk's cheap.
And you know who the guy, the United States spokesperson is on this? Quote, "We have seen columns of Russian equipment, primarily Russian tanks, Russian artillery, Russian air defense systems, and Russian combat troops entering Ukraine," said, can't make this up, I think Orwell did, General Philip Breedlove.
Oh, Breedlove is a nut.
Breedlove? Yeah, Breedlove, not war, huh?
No, there you go. I said that earlier today. Breedlove, not war. he is a nut. This guy wants more American troops all over Eastern Europe to counter the terrible threat of Russia and Vladimir Putin. This guy is doing the bidding of his masters. And NATO is nothing less, in my book, than the private military extension of the City of London banking cartel. That's what it is.
Well, we did a whole big story about it a couple of Trends journals ago. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts did it. And it's another tool just for United States hegemony into the area. And again, this guy, the quote, if you read it carefully, we have seen columns of Russian equipment, primarily. How about showing us pictures that if you see them? How about
BS.
showing us pictures?
Can't show us one picture.
No, he can't show any pictures. This is national security. You're too stupid to.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
What's wrong with you? We can't. If we show you these pictures, then that'll help the terrorists.
Oh, yeah.
Something stupid like that.
But the only interesting thing in the election was how Monsanto went into Oregon and threw that razor-thin margin to themselves to stop the mandatory labeling of their GMO death products. So, unfortunately, you had another big money, corrupt, fixed election.
Yep, the whole election. Again, it's an illegitimate election.
Yeah. True. Absolutely true.
I mean, let's call it what it is. When you look at the numbers don't lie. And the fact is that people didn't turn out to vote. And when you look at the whole situation, it's just totally disgusting.
Yeah.
And people forget too, that Bush, he left office as the most hated president in recent history.
That's true. This guy may top him, though. We'll see.
And exactly, that's the point I was going to make. And it's just one fraud after another. Mm-hmm. And here in New York, we saw our like 28% of the people came out to vote. So when you look at the turnout and how many people voted in the parties, it translates. For example, with this guy Cuomo, another guy born on third base and thought he hit a triple. His old man was governor. It translates into barely 15% of eligible voters voted for him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like that. It's like that throughout the country.
15%. Well, yeah, I like that line. It's a great line. Born on third base, thought he hit a triple.
Yeah, all these guys.
All of them.
They're all spoiled little boys.
Yeah. Well,
and again, it goes back to Occupy Peace, because the real men that fought the revolution, they were scholars, number one, and number two, you have a person like Washington that fought in the war.
Correct.
He led the troops.
Yeah.
He wasn't a commander-in-chief that plays basketball, drives a pickup truck, or plays golf. This is a real man, a real soldier. And what's his farewell address? No foreign entanglements.
Yeah. But don't
Franklin,
worry.
I want to bring home the troops, seal the borders, and rebuild America. That's what this movement is about.
Yeah. Yeah, if we don't seal the borders now, it may be too late. We have to go beyond that. You might add a subplank to your platform there, and that's deportation of all
I
illegals.
agree. I agree. You're here to legitimately leave.
Correct. And charge the country of origin with their transit. Get them out. Got to do it. Eisenhower did it. It worked.
I know. And then after the Depression, when the Depression hit, they closed down this country. We can't take care of our own. Are we going to take care of everybody else?
Hell, it's mandated that we don't take care of our own and give these illegals the best of medical care, and they don't get charged a damn dime for it. We do. So it is a federal law that our own do not get taken care of. That's another one that people don't understand. They can't believe it when I tell them that.
I know.
Oh, but don't worry. Johnny McCain said he is thinking seriously about running for re-election. What is he? 80?
Great.
He's 86, so he'll be 88. He gets out. He'll be 94. Well, why not go for 100, right?
Yep. So with Occupy Peace, it's basically stay out of everybody else's business and take care of your own.
Well, you're harking back to General Washington, and I'll tell you. Let me know when I can help you on this, and I'll put a link up for
Please
permanent.
do. OccupyPeace.us.
Yeah, have Zeke send me a link.
I will.
Okay, thanks, Gerald.
Thanks a lot, man. Good night.
You be well. Okay, Gerald Celente, hour number 1, and we will be back with more in just a few minutes.